guys are getting set up. Who wants to start us off?
Just from your experience, obviously you've had long tournament runs, short tournament runs in the past. What are the elements the team needs to have to go deep in the tournament? Is there one common thread?
Talent is the first one. You got to have talent, and then I think the fact that you stay focused, you understand what got you there. You don't get away from it. You don't let all. You got to enjoy it, and which sometimes. I think in the past, certainly when I was a young coach, I probably compounded the pressure of the tournament by the way we approached it, and I've learned you just got to go at it just like you would getting ready for the SEC tournament. You know, get your guys. Right now, I hope we can get our legs back under us and get going again. And then at some point in time, you look at it. It seems like if you really get deep into it, Lady Luck comes in at some point in time too. But the key is that you continue to do what's gotten you there.
Rick, you had a lot of turnovers against Auburn, and I wonder, what do you think led to that, and how do you avoid that going forward?
Well, I think what led to a lot of the ones where we were just fumbling the ball was playing Mississippi State and Kentucky too hard. We had to fight hard in those two games, but when I see our guys uncharacteristically just losing the ball, you could put whatever you want on it, but we went through that stretch where we had 7 straight turnovers where we just fumbled the ball. Guys weren't catching it. Guys dribbling the ball off. They're just losing the ball. And whether it's fatigue or whatever, and, we've been a team that has taken care of the ball for the most part. And when we do that, and certainly from here on out, you better be able to do that. If you don't, you lose like you did yesterday.
Rick, how do you feel about the idea that a team is sort of ultimately defined by how they perform over the next 1 to 3 weeks?
How do we what?
How do you feel about the idea that a team is ultimately defined by how they perform over the next 1 to 3 weeks?
Well, we've had a terrific season. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you look at where we are right now, we've had a terrific season, but we want more. And I think everybody that's in this tournament wants more. And whether that's how you're defined or not, I mean, it is what it is. But the fact is that you're one of, 68 teams now that get to play in this tournament. And that in itself is something you don't ever take for granted. I've said that every year that I've been in it. You don't ever take it for granted. And then when you get there, you want to win it. You want to do that. And whether you're defined by that, I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. I don't. The fact is, we, along with these other teams, have a chance to do it, and you hope that your players step up to it and can make the most of it, because it's a once in a lifetime experience to get a chance to do it.
Rick, how do you balance keeping a team loose this time of year with also stressing how important every possession is in a win or go home situation?
Well, that is a key, but again, you just want the players to go in and play. You want them to just lock in, and I mean, we've played how many games? 34 games, and we've been in a lot of hard-fought games, and where possessions are important, and you don't have to play perfect. There's not going to be any perfect games played in this tournament. You go back in my lifetime, probably the closest one to perfection was when Villanova beat Georgetown, and other than that, and that wasn't a perfect game, so you don't have to play perfect. Neither team has to play perfect to win, but you've got to be good, and you've got to be sound, and you've got to minimize your mistakes and take care of the ball, not give up extra possessions, all those type things. But it's what you've played the whole year for, is to be in a chance to try to go out and play in this tournament.
Rick, you mentioned as a young coach compounding the pressure leading into an NCAA. How did you do that? How have you changed since you were a young coach?
Not going. What we do during the regular season, we're going to do it now. We're not going. There's going to, again, I would do things, just try to keep people away from our team, just trying to do this or do that. But now we're going to do what we've done. I mean, it's worked for us for the most part, and we're just going to continue to do what we do and expect the players to do their part, that knock out all the outside noise that comes with it, and but now we deal with it more throughout the year than we ever had because of the social media, the media stuff, and it's not like they're not used to having cameras around and this and that. But the fact is, you embrace it, you enjoy it because it's something they've worked for, and you hope they enjoy it. But the enjoyment is that you keep playing and you get through game by game and hope that you can continue to advance.
Coach, just transition points like the last 3 or 4 games are way in favor of the opponent, and are you know, is that because of how you go into the glass, you know, the turnovers? What do you describe that to?
Yeah, I think bad offense always leads to bad transition. Defense is what I think most of the time. When you turn the ball over, you take quick bad shots, and you do that. But a lot of that, you got to give respect to our opponents. I mean, you go back and look. I don't think we lost a game this year to a team that wasn't ranked. What did Mississippi State? Where are they in the tournament?
They're a 6 seed, I believe.
A 6 seed, and I don't know where Auburn. I haven't looked at the bracket, so I don't know. But we played against good teams that are capable of winning. Our losses, I promise you, are the teams that have a chance to go as deep into this tournament as anybody. And so some of it goes, you give credit to the opponent. And like I said, I think when you're giving up transition baskets, it's normally off of turnovers and shot selections, because you can't get your defense set. And if you can't get back to play 5-on-5, it's some things you can't guard.
Mississippi State was a 5 seed, sorry.
Just this last week, you talked about the level of teams y'all have played, but just this last weekend, having to follow up that Kentucky game with what happened against Auburn, what lessons were learned just in terms of what you're going to deal with in the tournament when you're playing Thursday,
Well, we're not going to have
Saturday?
to play 3 games in 3 days, and one of them after. I mean, I'm telling you, the Kentucky game was like a national championship game in terms of the second half of that game was brutally physical. I mean, it was a hard fought game, and then you have to turn around and play less than 19 hours later. It's tough. We're not going to have to do that anymore. And but the fact is, we turned the ball over. We didn't play well, and I thought Grant Williams was very tired. I looked at the coach who was 6 minutes into the game and said, we're going to have some trouble here, because and then when we turned the ball over like that and got down, we weren't able to use our bench, because now we got to try to get those guys. We got to try to get the score down to a manageable thing, and we just couldn't do it. And they were making shots, and but it's the turnovers. That's what cost us the game yesterday. I mean, you cannot turn the ball over 6, 7 straight times without getting a shot. It's just and what happened in that situation, too many guys tried to do it by themselves, and so that's the lesson to be learned. Is that when and the night before we didn't do that. We stayed together. So you asked me how you can 19 hours later go from being one team to the other team. I can't answer that, because when we were down 9 with less than 3 minutes, we stuck together, executed. When we were down 10, 12, everybody thought, well, I got to go do something, and it compounded the problem.
Coach, I know you'll take it one game at a time with your next opponent in Colgate, but you'll obviously probably try to do some advanced scout with the quick turnaround for all 3 teams there with you in Columbus. Can you talk about those other 3 teams, Cincinnati, Purdue, and Colgate?
I don't know anything about them. I haven't watched them, but we are. I mean, each one of the coaches they're already working on those scouts. And again, you look at both Iowa and Cincinnati. I mean, again, if you're in this tournament, you've earned it. You're a good basketball team. You're capable of winning. And I bet if I go back and look at their schedules, which I haven't yet, they both have big wins. And but yeah, we'll have the scouting done before we get there, and then we'll be able to watch that game live and in person, and then we'll do what we do in between games. We'll have a chance to go into you'll get more time in the arena than you get during your conference tournaments and all those type things, where you'll have more time to really prepare. Even though it's a day off, it gives you plenty of time this time of year to do what you need to do.
Rick, with your experience, have you found any difference in the way your team would respond, whether you lose a conference tournament game or whether you win a conference tournament? Have you noticed any difference going forward?
All through the years, yeah. We've one of the best teams we had. I'll never forget it. We got beat by Texas Tech and Coach Knight in Dallas, and I remember he shook my hand and said, "Now go win you a national championship." And that was the year we went to the Final Four. He said, "This is good for you. Now go win you a national championship." Is what he said. And at the time, I didn't think it was good for us, but because you always want to win regardless. And we won a conference championship at Providence. And I remember the next day, and we had to play again early on Thursday. And I remember telling the coaches, we're in trouble here, because it was such a big deal about us winning when we won the Big East championship, to get our guys to really settle back down. And we were in a matchup with Alabama, who had a good basketball team, but you could tell the emotion of winning that was something big for them. And so, yeah, I've seen a lot of different things happen, and I've seen teams where at the time were struggling and go in and play into the second or to the Elite Eight. You know, we've done that. You know, so there's no rhyme, no reason to it. You just hope that right now that your guys are locked in and they're playing their best, and and you can keep winning.
Coach, when you look at Colgate, is it concerning how well they've shot the ball, especially in conference play from three-point range? And also, is there anything else that sticks out to you?
I mean, they're good. I mean, you look at them; they're a very skilled team, high percentage shooting. They got great size. I mean, across the front, they're as big as we are, or bigger, and well coached. They run. They're not afraid to push the ball. They run some ball screen stuff, different stuff out of that. They mix up their defenses, and you know, they can show multiple zone defenses, and they play man. But again, they wouldn't be here, and if they're not a good basketball team, but they're a very skilled team. I think they've got the Player of the Year. I think the Freshman of the Year on their team. They're just very skilled at every position. So again, you would expect whoever you're playing this time of year to know that you got to be ready to play. Because believe me, they're going to be excited to play, and we're going to be excited to play. So it should be a good basketball game.
Rick, you said earlier that one of the keys this time of year is knowing what got you here and not getting away from it. How did you feel like you guys did that in Nashville this weekend?
Well, again, you go back to the game against Mississippi State. We defended well. The Kentucky game, we defended well. We defended well enough yesterday. I mean, when I was watching the tape coming back last night, we just didn't. You can't give up 21 points off turnovers. I mean, there's no defense for that, and those are free shots. But when we got them in a half court, I think that they shot. I don't know what their percentage was yesterday, but it was lower than ours. And so when you shoot a higher percentage than the other team, but you throw it away like we did, you don't have a chance to win. And but defensively, once we got our defense set, we defended okay. You know, they're going to jump up and make some of those threes, but that's not what's going to beat you. What's going to beat you is turning the ball over like we did.
Rick, I'm sure the competitor and you and your players would say that there's never a good time for something to happen like yesterday. But if there's a better moment than others, is it when you get a bracket to look at a couple hours later and you get to completely flush it and move forward and have something to play for?
Well, you got to whether you win or lose, you got to flush it out. I mean, I mean, these guys, right? I mean, we got a team that's what's our record? 29-5. I mean, they've had to flush out a lot of things, whether it's win or lose, because if you start thinking you're too good, you're going to get beat. We've been in some close games, and but our guys were disappointed. I mean, and I'd be disappointed if they weren't disappointed. And the fact is, you don't get a chance to do that often. You got to work. Well, some teams do. Some teams get more chances than others to play for conference championships and regular season championships. And the fact is, this group of guys, I can tell you, every guy in this room 4 years ago would not have thought that was going to happen with this group of guys. But they've done a lot, and we've had a terrific regular season, and now we've got to want to go in here and see if we can make this the best postseason we can possibly make it. And I think we've got the kind of leadership on this team that will embrace that and look at it and, like I said, be excited to get started and play.
Rick, what kind of challenge does having to play a team like a smaller school like Colgate, who has had to win, 3 or 4 games to end the season just to get a chance to get in the tournament? What kind of challenge does that present to a team in the first weekend of the NCAA?
Well, you asked me for a challenge for us or for them, or what do you?
For you, is it challenging to play a team who is essentially playoffs started for them a while ago?
Well, I think the playoff starts for everybody. When the season starts. I mean, if you don't, with the way that things are today, what you do back in November is just as important as what you do at the end. And the guy said it. If they're playing right now, they're a good basketball team. I don't care if they had to win the last 4 or 5 games. If they're playing right now, they're excited. They've got to be excited. They should be excited because they've done a great job to be part of 68 teams that are playing for a national championship. It's going to be something those guys will remember. Our guys will do the same thing because we don't take it for granted. I mean, we shouldn't. I mean, I've been here 4 years and we've been in 2 of them, and I think our guys would tell you that they've worked hard to get there, and I know the Colgate players feel the same way. They've worked hard to get there, and like us, they should really want to embrace it, and I think they will. And like I said, it's special to be a part of this, and it's something that you don't take for granted. There's 68 teams, and how many are in college basketball? It's 350? Something, and you count the NIT, there's probably a couple hundred teams that wish they were just playing right now, wish they could practice again. So I have respect for anybody who's playing basketball going forward right now.
Rick, by nature, it looks like Lamonte is more of a natural scorer. So obviously he's developed as more of a lead guard. So what were those conversations like as you were trying to develop him and he was really trying to develop into that position as more of a lead guard for your team?
Well, you know, both he and Jordan Bone are guys that, you know, had to learn to play the point. I mean, they weren't, I mean, and playing the point is not just bringing the ball down the floor. It's learning how to manage and work the game. And they both have had to try to do that. But Lamonte is I think I'd say that both of them would look at themselves as scorers. I mean, you look, yesterday we talked about some turnovers. A couple of those guys, both of those guys had some tough shots. And where they, in their mind, they think that they can go create some of that, and sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. But Lamonte, what we've always felt about him, and we feel the same thing about Jordan, those 2 guys could be 2 of the best defensive guards in the country now. And Lamonte, what he's done the last couple games has been a guy that truly has wanted to embrace going against the best guard on the other team. I mean, he's asking for that. I mean, he really wants to do that. And when you get a team of guys thinking like that, now you got something where they really put defense first and understand that that's what it really is about. But Lamonte has embraced that as much as anybody in the last month. And I think because what he's done with it, trying to really get better, it's helped our team overall on the perimeter. And so, but he's a scorer, and yesterday, you know, he was a guy that, you know, like we talked after the Kentucky game, he's going to take his shots, and he should. And the reason he has missed some shots and had the percentage he shot, he took some shots he shouldn't have taken, and that's what the conversation was about. You're too good a shooter to be shooting that percentage, and you got to ask yourself why. And then be able to own up to it, and he did. You know, he said, "You're right. I know because he's wanting to make it. He's that much of a competitor, but he's got to realize, and he has realized more and more, that if he locks in, and he's a much better player than he gives himself credit for, because some guys totally look at scoring points. I got to score. I got to score. I got to score, and you know." If you're a volume shooter, you're going to score points, which is not a good thing from where I sit. But the fact of the matter is, Lamonte can pass the ball, he can guard, you know, he can score at different levels, which is good. But it's when he just thinks I've got to stand out there and take tough threes. That's when he's not a very good basketball player. But when he's really being the player that he's capable of, again, and respecting all his other abilities, is when he can really affect the game.
Coach, I know we've asked you about this quite a bit over the last month, but you didn't get very much off the bench outside of Jordan Bowden yesterday. Just, you know, how imperative is that these next couple of weeks that some of those guys step up?
But I also think it's important that the starters do their jobs. They didn't do their jobs at the start of that game yesterday, and we got behind. And then when we get behind, now you're trying to make sure you get you know, keep yourself in a position to play. You know, we started the game, the very first 3 we gave up was absolutely a situation we said we're not going to give up, and that's where starters have to do their jobs and know that they don't want to. We don't have to go to our bench and put so much pressure on our bench when you're down 10, 12 points trying to get back in the game, and so it's not just a combination of the starters, but we need them to answer your question. We need those guys to help us, but we need our starters to do their job from the very beginning. That will help our subs more than anything. Not our subs, they're really our second line players.
Rick, after the physical toll of the weekend, how happy were you to get a Friday, Sunday instead of the Thursday, Saturday? And I think last year you had to do a Thursday, Saturday. Mm-hmm. How hard is that on a team playing on a tournament that ends on Sunday? It
is. When you do what we did a year ago, you know, we left and you get back. As soon as you get back, you got to turn around and take off and go. I think we went to Dallas last year some ways, Tom just told me that we were, if we'd have won, we'd have gone to California. I don't know what day that would have put us on, which that's not a lot of fun either doing that. But I do think right now getting to play for Friday will give us a chance to get some rest here, and which we need. And I think any team that plays 3 straight days against the level of competition that we played needs a couple of days to get their legs back, because it's something that we haven't done since the beginning of the year.
Coach, did you feel that you guys were deserving of a 1 seed, but then realistically speaking, how much of a difference is there between the 1 and the 2?
You know, I don't know. I didn't know until Tom just told me here. The committee said if we'd have won the game, we'd have been a number 1 seed. I don't. Again, I respect what they think, but I mean, you know, Gonzaga, we played them. They're a great team and outstanding team, and I haven't thought about it, to be honest with you. I just respect what the committee does, and you just got to win. You know, you can look at the bracket and think this and that. I don't do that. I'm not going to sit there and analyze the bracket here or there or whatever. It's what we got handed to us, and we got to make the best of it. All right, thank you guys.